Well, his YouTube channel is DITRH, otherwise known as Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Are you with us, man?
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. I thought it was going to start out to be a slow day in Flat Earth, and then it just got nuts by the end of it. I have back-to-back interviews scheduled tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, starting at 9. One's in London, and then one's the that leak project with Rex. And then I've got Patricia's show, and then 30 minutes before I started this thing, some radio station in Dubai called up, and I said, "Look, I got a show. I got." When they go, give us 5 minutes, give us 10 minutes. I go, okay. So they called, and we recorded literally 30 seconds before I connected us.
Anything good? Did they ask good questions?
Well, what can you do in 6-7 minutes? They just said I just rolled with it. I just gave them my bullet, the fastest bullet points I could give them. The curvature of the Earth, NASA sucks, Antarctic Treaty, Admiral Byrd, the Truman Show. I just threw stuff at them as fast as I could and hoped that some of it stuck. And they were pretty excited. If you get a head of steam rolling, they appreciate the enthusiasm. Conviction wins the day. Anyway, man, it's been a while since we've a little while anyway. I mean, we were on that other thing together, but for Dark 30. But I wanted to bring you on because you made a video recently, which again it goes into the whole. Does it prove flat Earth? No, it doesn't. Lots of things together really lean on flat Earth, but it was fantastic in that it was one of the most damning things I've ever seen when it came to NASA. And would you mind breaking? I know it's radio, and we can't share screens or anything. But would you mind breaking it down for us? Kind of how you found it and where you went with it and what you were trying to get across.
Well, first, there was another YouTuber that found the fake mic pass, or we're not sure that, whenever the ISS guys are out there, they're always flipping things in front of you, twirling them in the air. That's, that's $52 million worth of floating twirls per day. Yeah. And somebody found it looks like the guy went and moved the hat over or the microphone, and the other astronaut thought he was passing it, grabbed nothing. Yeah. Passed it into his other hand and then put it on the shelf. But there was nothing in his hand, and he was completely busted. Yeah. But then I looked further into it. Another thing they do to prove that they're in space is always in the background in the hallway that goes sideways. Yeah. Are other astronauts doing things that are floating by. Yeah. And I just looked at that. I mean, the guy's hanging by a harness, and you could even see the harness coming off his waist as he's floating by.
Yeah, but since he was just in the background, I mean, he was way back there. And again, that's straight out of movie production 101. And that is okay, well, let's make sure, remind everyone you're in zero gravity. So let's have something, instead of having something floating in the foreground, which they had anyway, let's have a guy going across and then going back.
Yeah, back, and then one time he's going back and there's a package flying in front of him.
Yeah. Because that's what you do. You'd throw it ahead of you. Yeah.
It's such when I watch NASA videos, it is so upsetting to me that people can't see through this nonsense. Just go to the NASA channel, find any interview that they're doing, download it into a movie editor so you can flip through it fast, forward and backwards, and you will just find the craziest anomalies. I just looked at one now, and I'm putting another video together. It's everything behind the astronauts is green screen. Everything to the sides and in front of them is really there. But when they try to do a little trick, like put their feet on the wall, they'll push something up. And when they move their feet away, guess what? It falls down.
Yep.
It falls down.
Dude, let me backtrack real quick, because the video that you mentioned, and now that you were saying it, because the guy grabbed it, and I know I'm not going to do this guy's justice. You've got to, in fact, what's the name of the video so people can reference it like right now as they're listening to?
You know what? You caught me off guard. Let me.
Oh, it's okay. No, it's okay. While he's looking that up real quick, exactly what it's called. What we're looking at, and the reason why it was screwed up, the reason why it's like, well, NASA wouldn't release stuff like that. They totally, pick it up in post production. It's like, no, because NASA.
No, that was live.
That was live. They were
Right.
trying to talk to, because why wouldn't you, of course? They're trying to talk to some students, and I don't know if they were junior high or high school, in Idaho. So it was a live feed. And you know full well, in any production, Hollywood production, one of the things they tell you is if you can all avoid it, don't do live, because nobody gets it right. There's always production mistakes when you do it. Live is a death sentence, unless you're doing stage work. And they make big deals of it during television shows. Oh, yeah, we're going to shoot Law and Order live this time. And it's like, well, now I get it. Now I understand.
And if you watch these guys again are in front of a green screen. They're using Final Cut Pro. The objects, the hat and the microphone, I don't believe are even in front of them.
Nope.
And you can see that they're looking at a monitor in front of them, which has the objects on it, and they're grabbing things just like the weatherman on the weather station does. He's not it's a green screen, but they're doing stuff in front of them. It's easily done, and there are some YouTubers out there that are doing ISS fakes, which are really good. I mean, compared to NASA.
And now that you were saying it, I think it's the hat. I think you're right. Initially, I said it was the microphone, but he wouldn't put the microphone off to the side. What happened was the guy in the blue is moving two objects simultaneously. He's moving the microphone, two CGI objects. He's moving the microphone and he's moving the hat. And I don't know. I partly don't even blame the guy in the green for screwing this up, because he could have been looking at the monitor and it could have been the monitor that was screwing up. He could have looked, and maybe he thought that he was freaking moving the hat because the monitor showed him he was moving the hat.
But why would the guy still have the hat on the other side? Something went wrong.
Something went wrong.
They rehearsed this 1,000 times, and he screwed up. And if you look at his eyes, I even zoom in on it. You could see that he's flipping out. He's looking back and forth. He's looking at the monitor. They're never looking at the right place. For those of you that want to find it, I actually named it the exact same name as the NASA video. So when people look at it, and then I added Flat Earth, and it's NASA space station crew discusses life in space with Idaho students and educators. But if you just go to my YouTube channel, DITRH, it's the second video. It says NASA, nice. The second to last video uploaded.
Nice. And you're right. The guy in the green, his eyes, everything you focused on was perfect. One was the harness, the guy in the back with the black cable-y thingy that was coming off his back belt. But for me, it's like having the guy in the green go through the motion. You know full well how that works. It's like, okay, if you grab it was the most unnatural thing in the world, because if you miss the microphone or the hat, whatever you're gunning for, you don't follow through with the motion and keep going. You keep fumbling around. It's like, well, I haven't grabbed the microphone. So you just keep grabbing at it until you got it. But he pretended that he had it and then moved it over to his far right side on the far side of the craft. And you're looking at it going, holy smokes, he completely botched it. And he had panic in his eyes. You could see it.
Yeah, they use all different types of techniques, to make them float. Some, old times they had actual old style, like harnesses, like from a play, hanging from the ceiling with wires. But now they're using, and somebody, I actually saw a clip of it. I think maybe it was from the movie Gravity, how they did it. They basically have a metal brace around your waistline hooked to a hydraulic arm. And in that brace, you can pivot, you can twist. You can do a somersault, or you can twist left and right. And that's all like behind them. And so wherever they move their bodies, that thing will move. It's basically a hydraulic anti-gravity lift. I don't know what to call it.
Oh, no, yeah. Yep, they use it. In fact, they use that in live stage productions from time to time, like Peter Pan. And stuff like that. Yeah, it's an old school technique.
If you look at the pants that they wear in space, first they have industrial belts, like they're workmen with 50-pound two belts on. Do your pants fall down in space?
No, they do not fall down in space.
I'm sorry. They also have. You can tell that there's a major harness on underneath those pants. They're packed. They're stuffed. Like when I go snowboarding, I don't have that much padding under my pants.
Yeah. And the harness also explains what I've made fun of now for a year, which is socks. Because I was going, okay, why are you wearing khakis, a polo shirt, and socks? What's with the freaking socks? Why is there no shoes? And that is because if you're spinning around, you need to slide. If your feet touch the ground, they need to slide. You can't have any friction in the bottom. You need to slide off whatever it is really nice and easily. Because if you had nice little grippy sneakers, which is what you should be wearing, whatever Fred Rogers shoes, as soon as those sneakers hit that aluminum, that's it. That motion, the fluidity of the motion is gone. And so socks is the rule. It's great, but it still defies all logic because you're wearing absolutely the worst thing possible in case something went wrong in that place.
Also notice that they're always wearing crisp, new polo shirts. I want to see their wardrobe up there with very tight fitting arms. I mean, when you're trying to not sweat through a shirt, you want a loose shirt.
You want a loose shirt.
Yeah, but they're in space. They work out for 2 or 3 hours a day, is it? On that ridiculous machine where they could have, that probably cost us $1 billion, where they could have just sent up a $500 Soloflex and they would have had the best workout machine ever. No plug there, but it's way better than the machine that they have, and it works on resistance. It's complete nonsense what's going on up there, but they have these tight shirts on tucked in with these heavy industrial belts. It's utter nonsense.
Yeah, it is. You're right, and the industrial belt is a dead giveaway. You don't need belts at all, but the belts they have are way more. What's the word I'm looking for? An industrial, I suppose, the word. I mean, it's way overkill for what you need for a belt. I mean, I own belts, and that is not the belt you want to wear in a zero-G environment with khakis. You need almost nothing if you need anything at all. That, and of course, not to go off on a rant here, but the hair still drives me insane. It's like, look, this is like a swimming pool situation. I used to pick on the women because, women used to, in fact, they still do. You have to wear, in some public pools, if you have long hair, you have to wear a hair thing. Because if the hair breaks off and you swim through it, it's like swimming through spider webs. It's way worse. It would be way worse in zero-G environment, not to mention it would clog up the filters. It would be horrible. It would be absolutely terrible. But it's not just the women. It'd be the men, too. The men, I mean, you'd buzz their hair, you'd shave their arms, armpits. You'd reduce body hair to an absolute minimum all the time because it would be horrible. And what you said about the polo shirt is absolutely true. That nobody has any stains on anything when they're on camera. Nobody spills anything ever.
Nobody gets an upset stomach from floating around. No one ever has to throw up, and what I say proves that they're not in space is the fact that they have one bathroom and it's that ridiculous toilet. There's a one scene where that big haired, woman, she's going in there showing you how to use the toilet. She's sticking her hand in there. She's touching it. I mean, could you imagine that toilet in on Earth where everything would go down? Oh, yeah. It's complete nonsense. There's no way it could work.
Yeah, it would be disgusting. It would be so. I mean, the place would be. Don't get me started, but the place would be so freaking. And we're not the first people to suggest this. Lots of people have suggested this. Like, wouldn't that place be just grunged up like nobody's business? I mean, shouldn't they be cleaning it all the time? And yet, all we see is just tons and tons of nooks and crannies and laptops and cables. And stuff where dust and grime would settle all the time. The place would smell horribly. It would be awful. It'd be an awful place to live. Not to mention they throw water around everywhere like they don't care. Even though a single drop of water in the wrong electrical circuit, who knows what sort of crap that would produce.
It's horribly upsetting that people cannot see through this. It's an amazing job, the elite have done. I hate using that word, but the people that control this world that we live in, they've literally dumbed down the population or indoctrinated them enough where they can't see through it. And then they look at people like us and say, "Oh, you think you're special? You have special knowledge that the rest of us don't have." I mean, it's I can't even talk. It's so
here's
upsetting.
one. Do the simple math, guys. Look up stuff. And again, what I love about the whole flat Earth movement is it's not like we've uncovered some secret treasure trove of information. This is all stuff anybody can look up anywhere, because we're basically using mainstream science, their knowledge against themselves, kind of like judo, using a person's body weight against them. Like when they say, oh yeah, it costs anywhere between $8,000 and $20,000 per pound to send anything up to the ISS, right? That's pretty pricey. And yet they seem to have no restrictions, especially in the last 5 years, no restrictions on anything they send up there. You'd think sending up Chris Hadfield's guitar would not be a priority. How much does a guitar weigh? 4 pounds? 5 pounds? Something like that? A gorilla suit. Why in the world would you send that's 2 pounds, 3 pounds minimum for the crappiest. Bagpipes, flutes. Let's see. Oh, every NFL jersey that's ever been made. Footballs. There's so much crap that is supposedly sent up there. At the very least, you should say, the taxpayer money, if you even believed that the ISS was there, they're spending money on stuff that absolutely is irrelevant to anything. And yet, oh, by the way, did you see the one, not to go off on a side note here, but did you see the one, I hope maybe you're making a video on it, where the, oh crap, what's his face? Oh, the bald guy that came down, one of the twin brothers.
Is it Peak?
No, not Tim Peake. The
Gifford, the Gifford one, the one that's married.
Yeah, the Gifford one. Anyway, he was playing with the water with the paddles, the hydro repellent paddles. So he was bouncing the glob of water between the two paddles, and one of the community noticed that his eyes were not following the frickin' water. They were jumping into places that he had it for a little bit, and then after that, his eyes were completely out of sync with the water droplet. With kind of went into the whole thing where you caught that clip with George Bush with the tennis ball thing.
I know.
Yeah.
It just all of NASA, everything they do. If you just look at it, anybody just go to the NASA channel and watch these videos, and just don't look where they want you to look. Look to the back, look to the side, watch what's going on. Now I notice they're trying to show that they're in space, so they're not even locking.
Scott Kelly, by the way.
Scott Kelly, there you go.
Scott Kelly.
They're not even locking their feet into the floor, so they're floating, completely free floating, and they're moving their arms all around. Nope. That wouldn't happen. You would start tumbling away. But they're just trying to show that basically they're in this balancing device that will let them float anywhere they want. That thing you go to at the amusement park where you strap your feet and hands in it, and it's like a big gyroscope, and you just move your body. That's essentially what they're on, but it's just holding onto their waist. It's one of those that type of technology, and it's just holding onto their waist, and they could spin and rotate. And it's just green screened out. And the big belt is part of it. The computer knows to replace it with that belt. Right. But if you watch their pants, the creases in their pants approaching the belt are very odd.
Yeah. And what you said earlier, and that is, look, they want to be comfortable being up there, and yet everybody's clothing is tight. I mean, it's snug fitting. Nobody has a loop, but nobody forgets their belt, as far as I can tell. Everything's super snug, and I'm really surprised they don't have the cuffs of their pants like velcroed, straight to their legs. Like a special thing, like parachute pants. But it's ridiculous. It's absolutely amazing. And I got to give you credit for that video that you did. How long ago was that? With the George Bush thing, where you had Tim Peake on there. And they let it slip. People say, "Oh no, they didn't let it slip." Oh yeah, they did, because George Bush Sr. was being pushed through on a wheelchair through one of the command centers, and his people would have taken priority over the video footage released, because that's what they released. And in the background, they had the blue screen, and that was the only time you saw it for that one. Go ahead.
I'll go with that. I actually think you're right with that analysis. But another one that I won't object to is they're rubbing it in our faces. They are allowing this stuff to go out. Because I truly believe that they are required to tell us what they're doing. They're required to give us an opportunity to see through their deception. It's the law of free will.
Right.
They have to abide by it.
Yeah, you know what? In some weird, demented way, I kind of go with you on that one as well, because it seems like it's part of the rules. That is, well, if we tell them and they still don't get it, then we're off the hook.
If they tell us and we don't say no, we're consenting.
Yeah.
You know, if they put it out there, that's why, you know, all of the other crap that goes on in this world, they tell us beforehand. They put it out there in movies and commercials. They even put it out there on their websites and reports. You know, I always wondered why they told us what's in vaccines. You know, why are they bothering to tell us, you know, the side effects? It's because they can tell us that people don't care because they don't read it. Right. They believe the nonsense, and you know, and then that basically gives our free will to them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And two quick things. One was is along the lines of telling us things. Dennis Miller, and this was back in the day when the commercials were starting to come out, where half the commercial was the side effects for whatever prescription drug you were going to take. And Dennis Miller made fun of it, saying, "Why in the world would you ever take a drug whose side effect reads like a book of witches' spells?" And he was right. I mean, you know, some of the side effects, and I'll call one out. Why the hell not? The worst one. You guys want to look up a commercial? You can look this up on YouTube right now. Look
Abilify.
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 Abilify. You're absolutely right. That is the worst of the worst. And it's got the cheesiest cartoon animation, poor man's Disney happy thing, you know, the cloud of depression following you. And if you guys don't understand what Abilify is, it is not a mood stabilizer. It is a mood stabilizer booster. So you're still taking the happy pills you're already taking, but you're also going to take this is going to supercharge it. And the side effects, one of the side effects is just straight up death.
I think that comes right after rectal bleeding and everything else.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrifying. I watched that commercial the first time. I was going, wait, why in the world would anybody say that? You know, would take this? Hey, did you check out, by the way? You know, because I've been having a hard time keeping up because there's so much flat Earth content out there. I mean, every day it's getting just nutty, the amount of content that's being put out there. Some good, some not as good. But one of the ones I liked was when they called out Mythbusters when they were doing the test on can a solid rocket motor work in a vacuum. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Wow. I mean, I thought these guys were slime when they did the whole episode where they were, and I know they're under orders, where it's like, oh yeah, we went to the moon because we bounced a laser beam off of it, and it came back, and this observatory read a photon, and therefore we went to the moon because we bounced a reflector off of it. But then I saw them do the vacuum bottle rocket test, because that's going to prove it anyway. But it completely, where they did side by side with another guy who was doing full blown vacuum, and the sucker would not ignite. And of course, a solid fuel, there's nothing to burn. You need an oxygen source. And they fudged it. I don't know, was there any vacuum in that thing at all when the Mythbusters did? I doubt it. But all they did was they threw in a wrench to anyone that says, oh no, rockets can't work in space. And Mythbusters, they put doubt on that because they said, oh yeah, look at this vacuum chamber. In fact, it wasn't even a hesitation. It wasn't like a slow burn or anything like that. It was just like it was out in the open. How'd you pull that off? How did the fuse even get lit? Ugh. It's horrible.
Yeah. They also did the dropping of feathers in a vacuum, feathers in a hammer, I think it was, and they show them falling down together. But just before they land, edit, and then it's a new angle, just kind of like when a SpaceX rocket is landing, and it's just complete nonsense what they did. It's proven fakery.
I mean, some of their stuff, is pretty simple, and I don't have any conspiracy qualms about, like when they shoot a bullet. One of their favorite ones that I enjoyed, which is again how people get sucked in, was when they shot a bullet or a couple bullets straight up in the air, and measured the depth they punched into the ground, because the myth was, well, if you shoot a bullet straight up, it'll kill somebody if it comes down. and it won't. It'll hurt a lot, and you probably need some stitches, but chances are you're not going to die. And that test, yeah, I completely believe that test. But then they go and do this other stuff. Did you see recently the Bill Nye went on Colbert?
I didn't. Since his disgrace with Bill Nye Destroys the World.
Yep. He went on Colbert and he answered. In fact, the Peanut Gallery shot this to me, and he was basically defending himself because he was being attacked in social media about not having a master's degree in anything. And
so what did he say?
Well, he was saying, but I took. He literally said, and you can look this up. It's on YouTube. It's on the Colbert thing. He said that he took 6 calculus semesters, and there was something else. He took some physics. Yeah, he took a couple semesters of physics. It's like, dude, that is not even close to being enough. So six semesters of calculus gives you what? Nothing. If you got a master's degree in mathematics, yeah, maybe you'd have something to talk about. But just because you took a couple classes, and he's really great about dropping the name that he took a class with Carl Sagan. At one point, he's really big about that. But yeah, he was defending his credentials. It was awful.
Again, Bill Nye, and Neil Disgrace. The fact that people can't see through that. Yeah. It really makes me depressed some days.
There was, in fact, you really ought to tear apart this video because I was thinking of doing it, but there's just been too many things I've been tied up. Peanut Gallery says Bill Nye the actor guy. Yep, I know that one. Where he was asked, Colbert asked him how he became CEO of the Planetary Society. And I don't even know why he said this on air. He was trying to be funny or whatever. And he goes, well, as you may or may not know, Neil deGrasse Tyson is really big into wine. That was like the opener to the answer to this question. And he's going, yeah. And well, he was hanging out with them and they were doing a whole bunch of stuff. He goes, I don't know if it was the Canadian gin, but sure, before the night was over, I was the CEO of the Planetary Society. It was like he was tapped on the shoulder with Neil's royal scepter, and that was it. That's how he got it. And I just looked at this and going, "Oh, you dick!" I don't like him so much. Just because I remember I'm from the Northwest, so I knew where he came from, and watching him on television when he was doing sketch comedy. Back here, way before that whole. I mean, I found out way after the fact. It's like when he got on PBS and started doing that science guy stuff. I knew when he was doing the science guy up here, and it just drives me insane. I'm sorry, I can't.
Early on, a few years ago, if that was early on, when we were calling out NASA,
way back in the day,
way back, yeah. And the Globers would say, why do they even need to pay attention to you? You're just a crazy, YouTuber conspiracy theorist. Well, now there's 17 million videos. Flat Earth and NASA bashing is reached an unbelievable saturation. Yeah. And if NASA was real, they would take 10 minutes to do a live broadcast and say, all right, what do you want me to do now? And I'd say, go to the back and touch that flag, go over to the cupola and point the camera outside at the Earth right now. And they can't do that. They can't do anything close to that.
Oh, I got one for you. How about spinning in two different directions in the same shot?
They can spin upright, spin around clockwise or counterclockwise, and then they could also do a somersault on these
but can you go left to right? Can I spin, like I'm doing a pirouette and then do a somersault? I don't think you can do. I think
so because the one arm that's holding you, let's say it's holding you from the back. Yeah. Think of it like a robot arm that's holding you. Gotcha. That arm could move to the side and you can pivot, and now you're on a literally like a gimbal, like a 3-axis gimbal.
All right. So it's got to be an exterior shot then, because people have asked me, and I know they probably have asked you too, what would it take? Because I've actually gotten asked this on interviews. I'll probably ask tomorrow, which is, what will it take to convince you? And I go, okay, I want a 4K camera shot at least 20, 30 minutes in length from a certain distance with the Earth rotating, with the weather morphing, and I want to be analyzed by people in the community that specialize in Photoshop.
Yeah,
and studio.
That's one, to do it. But the other thing is they're getting so good with their digital technology. I'm not even sure some of that they're going to be using real astronauts. They're using fake people already on television.
They are, but full well that there are, when it comes to computer graphics, there's a limit to what they can do. I mean, they can come close, but you're absolutely right. Oh, by the way, that was another thing that somebody pointed out. That's one of the giveaways for the NASA people, and that is they have to have their hands. They can't do a tight fist. They have to have them kind of half open, where their grip is kind of open, because it's easier for the computer rendering for the CGI. It's that way you can go from hand to hand, and even then you've seen the fingers screw up. I mean, you've seen that where the fingers don't line up, but that's why their hands are always open. Their hands are either. Go ahead.
I'll look for that. Somebody, someone sent me a video of two astronauts on the space station. I think it was from 2013, where they're right side by side to each other, with very close to each other, and they're moving all over the place, but their arms never touch.
Right.
And they should have bumped into each other 100 times, but when their arms or an elbow would pass his arm, it literally it would just morph through it, or you could see that it's just they're not there together. But I'm not always saying they're not there together. Sometimes they're not there together. Sometimes they're shot upside down. Sometimes
I've seen that. And and you can tell because their faces, how people look when they're upside down. Their blood rushes to their head, and they get flushed, and they have that certain look. Their eyes get a little bulgy. Everybody knows when you hang upside down, it's uncomfortable, and they look constipated.
Yeah, and other times they're laying halfway back. They're at a 45-degree angle back, so you can see them, holding their posture. They do it at all these different angles, so we can never get a bearing on what's going on, because one time the wire is going to fall down, but the next time it's going to hang forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I have such what I do love is the amount of microscoping that we've been doing now. The community is rabid. I mean, they're pouring. You saw that thing where they went after that 1983 footage.
Which thing?
Where they were showing the space shuttle payload bay, and you can argue that it was a reflection. The guy's head that was that was off in the darkness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that's a reflection, but I don't know. I mean,
it's one of those things that it's like if you're on a globe, you can fight creation and evolution till the cows come home, and it's always going to be an argument. That one, I truly believe that they screwed up, that they are using models, and it might have been a reflection near the model, whatever they're using, or it might have been a guy right behind it. But it's not something that that you can nail the coffin close.
No, you can't. But there were, and I would have even said that it could be a reflection. Although, look, if it's like a truck, the back of a truck window where you're looking into the bed of the truck, you're not going to have the cam. You're going to have the camera as close to that window as possible. And if it was a reflection, that means that camera was back. It's like, how much room do you have? You're going to shoot that thing from 5 feet back through the window? Why isn't that camera like right at the window? But that's not the part that got me. What got me was the stuff before that. The two things that I noticed. One was, of course, when they were launching, all the astronauts, everyone was wearing short sleeve shirts and no gloves. You had bare arms from the elbow to your fingertips running the control panels. And it's like, wait, why are you running control panels anyway? You're in a shuttle. You're freaking just light that candle. You're not piloting anything on the way up. And that was amazing to me. There's like they were showing, again, this is the early days. This is 83 when nobody would have noticed that. And now of course, everyone's wearing full gloves. It's full astronaut gear when you're going up there, like the old days. But the other thing was the motorcycle helmets that they were wearing. I thought, and you're fully aware of the shuttle Challenger photo op pic, where the 7 of them are sitting there in their flight suits, but they also have those cheesy white helmets sitting next to them. And I thought those helmets were just display helmets. because it's like, okay, apparently the other ones didn't work for the shot, because these things are just piece of crap motorcycle helmets. They're tiny. They're like throwbacks from the 60s. And when you watch the 83 footage again, they're wearing those helmets. They're actually wearing those freaking helmets. I'm just going, why would they wait? Why has our spacesuit technology gotten, you've seen the spacesuit comparisons, gotten bigger and more awkward and more clunky when apparently back in the 60s, like with the Russian and early American stuff, all they had to literally wear was a motorcycle suit. That's all they were wearing. It was form fitted, worked great, helmet swiveled even though it shouldn't have, all that stuff.
Have you ever brought a half drink bottle of water on an airplane? Harder to do these days because you're not allowed to bring water.
Yeah, if it's open, if it's cracked, they won't let you do it.
But if you go up to altitude and open it, it's pressurized. Right. And if you drink a water on an airplane at altitude and then close it when you land, it's halfway crushed. That's just from an imperceivable change in air pressure, that you're not even noticing. Maybe you notice it in your ears a little bit. Right. But if you went outside in the zero, air pressure in space, your suit would explode. You would blow up like the Michelin Man at best. Yep. But none of that happens. And then you point that out to somebody that believes in NASA, and they just get that fluoridated stare. They look at you and they don't have anything to say. Yeah. And they're like, well, what about this? They change the topic. And again, the chain is broken. It's a broken chain. It doesn't work.
Was it you or was it Max Malone that found that great stop motion animation thing of it? I can't remember, was it Russian or an American?
I think it was Max Malone. Oh, it was unbelievable.
It was brilliant. Where you see the astronaut again. There's no 180. It's just a fixed shot where the astronaut's kind of drifting away from the capsule at orbit, and everyone knows if you're old enough to remember stop motion animation how it works. It's a frame by frame. Click, move, and the way that character moved was straight. I mean, well, first off, he turned the freaking helmet. It's like, how in the world is that helmet rotating? And why have we never ever done it again? Why is it, looking at you? And then as soon as the helmet stops, then his arm raises up and it waves because he's going to wave, but it was so clunky. And I felt literally like I was watching the same guys that did the old Sinbad movies from the late 60s and early 70s. Were in charge of that because again, that was all you had back in the day. That's all you could use. It was ridiculous. Do you know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I keep repeating myself. It's once you see how fake NASA is, you'll wonder how you never saw it before, and then you'll just be astonished that other people don't see it. I went up to somebody that has no idea about anything, and I was like, "Hey, did you catch that SpaceX launch the other day?" He didn't even know what SpaceX was. Yeah. And I pointed that it lands down, like landing a pencil on its eraser, and he's like, "Oh, that's really cool." Nothing. I mean, you couldn't even go near it.
Oh yeah, it's cool, except it can't be done.
Right.
It's even if you were gonna do it, why in the world would you? Oh, I know why. Because you don't want any cameras getting really, really close to it. Which is why in the world would you land on a moving barge, a postage stamp of a barge on water, that isn't completely secure? Why in the world would you ever do that? But if you're going to go down that road, why don't you? Because I can go off on SpaceX, and I'm going to. Which is why have all the space missions, all the touchdowns now changed from water missions, where you drop people in parachutes into the water, to ground missions where you're landing them in the dirt in Russia. In the Soviet, I can't remember what country, if it is actually Russia, where they're landing them because it's controlled airspace.
And then they wrap them in blankets while they're still in their spacesuits that can handle a 400-degree swing in temperature.
Yeah. Yeah, and they put them in lawn chairs in the field, and they take a photo op for 30 minutes. It's like, what are you guys doing? Why not land them? I mean, if you can touch them down there, why not touch them down, I don't know, right next to a military base? And why is there a photo op at all? Because they want the press. Speaking of which, though, because I want your opinion on this, what when you first heard about the, forget about the Google X challenge, which is, well, maybe we'll talk about that too. But when you first heard about the SpaceX moon tourist thing, what was your initial reaction? That's going to happen. The SpaceX is going to send 2 tourists around the moon and back next year.
Yeah. So we've lost the technology to go to the moon, to land on the moon. That's what they said now.
Yeah.
But we're going to Mars.
Yeah.
But I laughed. I mean, I what else are you going to do?
Go ahead.
They're going to take some Freemason, and is going to, I went, here, and I took pictures, and they're going to show us a bunch of nonsense. But that's it. Unless you go, you can't prove it.
The only way I can see them, because you remember, I've said this on several different things. If a government agent came to me, if a group came to me and said, Mark, you're the best Hollywood director we know. Here's an unlimited amount of money. You have unlimited amount of tech at your disposal. Can you fake a Mars mission for us? And I'd look at them and I'd say, you are out of your freaking mind. You're going to try to do this live. You're going to try actually do, almost real time footage. You're never ever going to do it. Oh yeah, the Peanut Gallery wants me to bring up that Air Force plane from yesterday, and I will. I will right after this. But when it comes to the SpaceX, and you guys haven't heard, SpaceX claims that they are going to send 2 tourists. We don't even know who these guys are. People are. I imagine there would probably be a man and a woman, maybe not. Around the moon, not going to touch down on the moon, but around the moon and back safely by next year. Even though NASA says the resources cannot be done, they're breaking every rule that NASA has tried to hold to for the last 60 years. NASA says it costs too much money. It can't be done because of the Van Allen belts. It can't be done because of this. And SpaceX says, oh yeah, we're just going to do it. And it's like, with what booster? The Falcon Heavy rocket? That's not even tested. What capsule? What capsule is going to hold the 5 people you're going to need to pull this off? Not to mention, here's the big one that they're going to screw up on, which is, how in the world are you not going to film this? Because 4K cameras are super cheap. You get one in a box of cereal nowadays. So with multiple 4K cameras with unlimited recording ability, it's just a hard drive. You're just going to record this thing forever. The camera's never going to stop. How are you going to shut all that stuff down and still pull this off? Because you cannot, all the stuff, remember I said that there's no footage of any craft leaving or entering Earth's orbit and all this other stuff. How are you going to not show it? And the only way I can think of them, one of 2 ways. Either you're going to have a horrible catastrophe on the pad and it's not going to go anywhere, or you're going to kick it down the road, or they're going to turn it into a remake of Apollo 13, where they're going to head to the moon, they're going to have a systems failure, and all the cameras are going to go down simultaneously, except for the interior.
Mark,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. What they're doing is the same thing they do with all these hoaxes and false flags, is as people dig into them, they just put another one out there and everybody drops all the work they've done and they focus on the new thing. Let's just go back to the magical building of the space station. You have to think about this. These astronauts up there, they're essentially the construction workers that are putting things together. There would have to be 100 different cameras videoing this, so the people at Mission Control can organize the whole thing and say, all right, move left, go right, grab this. All of that had to be videoed down to Mission Control so they can build it. Right. As you know, there's not a single video of the construction of the International Space Station. Yep. That there proves it's complete and utter fraud, and there is nothing up there man-made. Agreed.
The ISS, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary next year, I think, 1998 until 2018. There is no. You'd think they'd have tons of time-lapse footage things of the construction of the ISS from all points of view, and there's nothing. Nothing even. All you'll see is computer animations. This is how it was built, and they slap a whole bunch of CGI stuff together from an outside perspective. But you never see any footage of the construction of this damn thing.
It would have to have so many cameras on it from all different angles to be able to put it together in such a crazy light, dark, hot, cold, environment, moving. You can't feel the movement because there's nothing up there. It's the nonsense is beyond my ability
Oh, yeah.
to comprehend.
Yep. I absolutely agree. It's an extension of, I mean, the old tricks are the best tricks, and they learned that they could get away with it with the moon cars. The moon cars was the early version of that, which is we put cars on them, even though you didn't need them. We put cars and golf clubs. We put cars on the moon, but we're not going to show you exactly how that went down. We're not going to, we'll show you kind of some fuzzy pictures of how it may have been kind of lowered down, but who turned the wrenches? Who folded this thing out? I mean, you got to remember the astronauts had to build these cars and then drive them around. Even though when you double the speed of them, or was it 2.5 times speed, it looks like just a freaking dune buggy going through the sand. Why?
Pick anything that they do in space, anything, from the bathrooms to the cars,
right,
to, the shuttles that come up, anything, and just look at it with 10 minutes of critical thinking, and you'll see that it's complete and total nonsense.
I absolutely agree. It's horrifying. So what have you been doing like the last couple of weeks? What's been kind of your focus recently, the whole flat earth movement?
Anytime I'm just looking into flat earth, when I have free time, seeing what's going on. That lately, NASA, SpaceX, all of this nonsense in space is fascinating to me. And I try not to watch a NASA video, because when I do, I see something and I feel like I need to make a video. So
did you see the Air Force drone story from yesterday?
No, do tell.
Oh my God. It was sent to me by, I don't know, half a dozen people, and they said, oh, yeah, by the way, did you check out the Air Force drone? What Air Force drone? They land a drone that's sort of shaped like a tiny version of a space shuttle, unmanned, right? And at some Air Force base, and they spin it as a story like the Air Force has just landed a super secret drone, unmanned space vehicle that landed after 718 days.
Is that the XR-38 or whatever it's called?
Oh, yeah. And they've got guys in white hazmat suits walking around with Geiger counters. And it's like, okay, if it's super secret, one, you're never going to run a mainstream story on it. Two, if it's radioactive, then why are half the people not even wearing hazmat suits?
I used to believe in that it was flying around space for a year or two, and then it comes back. And I used to believe it, hook, line, and sinker. And the only reason people believe in NASA is because they don't check. They don't check.
They took it for granted, and that is because NASA is officially tied to science. Science. NASA. Let's face it. NASA is the most recognizable mascot of science. And they wear white uniforms, they don't carry guns, they smile for the camera, and they do seemingly fun, benign things. And that everyone took it as face value, and that is, oh, well, these guys are completely legit. It's like they're DOD. In fact, they're uniquely military. They are based on ex-Nazi rocket technology. They are nothing but military all the way around.
The problem is that people are nice. People are honest, generally speaking, and they can't imagine that, people that we trust could deceive us on such a huge scale. It's mind-boggling to me every day when I look at this going, how can this deception be so big? But, it's like a detective walks into a room and there's dead bodies, there's blood all over the place. He doesn't go, I don't believe there was a murder, because there's no motive. There's a murder. You got to look at the evidence.
Right. Absolutely right. And the people got to realize that the biggest tricks are going to be the one that everybody falls for. If the trick is really good and it's repeated again and again and again, people are going to buy it. It was so easy, and the argument I've been throwing at people lately is just to kind of get their head moving quicker, which is because eventually everyone leans into that. In fact, I'm thinking of doing a clue eventually on this. Where people always lean on a space program. They say, well, NASA, they're streaming ISS footage. I go, fine, get rid of that for a second. What happened before 1972? How did you know before 1972? It's like, what did 72 have to go? Because that was the first picture of the Earth from space. I thought, well, NASA was founded in like 1958. Fine. Go back to 58. I don't care, because for 450 years, everybody absolutely, which is why I use the George Orwell quote, everybody knew it was a globe. How did you know before 1958? And eventually you're going to have to come to the same conclusion. You don't want to say the words, but we all say it. And that is because science told us. They didn't show us. They told us.
So everything we know about planets is from NASA and Disney. There's no other source, and all the other space agencies, which are all, proven to be nonsense.
Right.
The 7 new possible Earth-like planets that they discovered.
Right.
And we saw pictures of these planets, or images. NASA never says photo or image. What are the 2 words they use? Don't use photo or image. They use I know they don't use the word photo, but whatever.
Oh, you mean like versus composites and
they don't use the word.
Oh no, you're right. They
photo.
don't use the word photo. They use
right.
They use image or series of images or coupled
together.
They
don't use photo or picture. I think that they don't. That's the other word they don't use. I think, but so we have all of those images of these 7 planets. And there's color, and this one has water, this one doesn't. But I saw somebody made a video that showed the data. Can you find that video? Because I'm looking for it. And literally, it's just a black. It's a black screen with a white graph, or white screen with a black graph, whatever, of just little lines. Like it looks like little lines, and then there's a little dip. It's like a equalizer where it's showing you all the bars of the music, and there's some little dips. And by those dips that in light intensity, they determined all of these things. Right. I mean, it's complete and total imagination.
Oh, yeah. And they talked to those 2 artists that were sitting there, those 2 graphic artists. And they were saying that, well, yeah, we have to take interpretive license.
What video is that from? Do you know?
I'm scrolling down because I watched it. I absolutely know what you're talking about, because when they got to the artists, and the artists are basically fessing up right there, saying, yeah, every deep space photo image you've ever seen from NASA is an artist's interpretation. We've just made it look like a photograph. That's all we've done. Especially with the planets. Because they don't. You're right. I saw that same thing where it looks like a sound bar, where they're looking at nothing. It's just data. And it's just data that NASA fed you. So it's the data means nothing. They basically have to, it's like, okay, what are you trying, what NASA, what do you think is happening here? And then they give them the description, and then they draw it from there. That's no different than any movie production house where you go and it's like, I need a set built. Honestly, it's the same thing that Matt Bullen would have been hired for. It was like, okay, what do we need? Well, we need kind of a bluish green planet with lots of clouds and a binary star system. Draw that up. So are you still looking for it?
No, yeah, I'm looking, but
people, again, we take everything we have for the longest time at face value. Every picture, it's not to say that adults are like children, but in some regards we are. Until we're lied to, we don't believe in lies. When we're children, which is why I used in the clues, which is why I used the movie. Oh wait, I think Peanut Gallery found it. He's really good at that.
Who is this Peanut Gallery, and where are you seeing his messages? He's not in the chat.
He's in Skype. Okay. And he messages me. His identity is secret, and it's called How to Explore Exoplanets. In fact, let me click on it real fast, and hopefully I don't lose it. How to Explore Exoplanets. It was done. Oh, hopefully this is it. We'll see. This can't be it. Is it, or is this like a different one, an original? But this one was done the end of 2016, and it's 3 minutes long. Really, is this it? That's one. It's a version of it. Huh. Pretty cool. All right. Anyway, where was I going with this?
I don't know.
I don't remember either. Oh yeah. Well, it was the same thing where I was trying to say in one of the clues, not just the Truman Show. Forget about the Truman Show. If you don't care about the dome, who cares? It was the movie The Village by M. Night Shyamalan, where they took kids, the parents wanted to get away from the crime-ridden streets, these rich parents. And so they bought a wildlife preserve. They built a town from the 1800s. They brought, they raised kids from infancy there, and they told the kids they were living in Pennsylvania in the 1800s. And you could take a line right out of the Truman Show for that, and that is, we believe the world that is presented to us. Yep. If your parents, I mean, honestly, like the Amish, for example, an Amish family, if they're out far enough in the weeds, they could tell their kids anything they want about the world. And the kids are going to believe it, which is why I kind of postulated later. I said, what's an interesting sequel to The Village by M. Night Shyamalan would be when the parents got old and passed away. Then you've got nobody in that town that knows what year it is, that it's actually 150 years later, and that there is modern technology, and that there are no monsters living in the woods. People believe what you tell them. They will naturally not think that people lie. I know there's people that are more suspect than others. I mean, I myself did not believe that authority figures would lie until I got to college. And then I was like, crap. Then I was in trouble.
And then you realize how much they lie. And then when you realize that, you find out that you only know 1/10 of what they're lying about.
Oh, yeah. Well, my first, you talk about a jarring awakening, because the internet was, nowhere to be found, was going to see JFK in the theater. That was my first exposure to it. And I was just floored. I was like going, holy smokes. What is going on? That was my, and then I had to revisit everything. And then I was suspicious of more and more as the years went by, to where now, you can't believe. And I know it sounds, too conspiracy cliche, but look, when you're watching the mainstream news, don't take anything at face value. Don't believe, I don't care what the story is. It's I mean, in fact, there was a story that came out just today, a little one, but it reinforced space, which was Russians now are saying that like a Russian study has been done over years, which says that actually salt doesn't make you thirsty. And I'm going, why would you run that story? It's because they tested it by simulating astronaut conditions here on Earth. That's how they ran the studies. So the study has nothing to do with if salt makes you thirsty. Of course it makes you thirsty. Everybody knows that. Drink enough Bloody Marys and you'll wake up in the middle of the night and drink a gallon of water. It's about the globe reinforcement. That's all it is. Every story you think about that's out in space it's all about the globe. The subtext is always there. Face on Mars, something on Saturn. Oh, look, new picture of Pluto. Doesn't matter. If you believe the story, even read it. As long as you hear the title, that's all that's important, which is, oh yeah, you're on a globe. It's a little reminder, you're on a globe.
There's a video called Rare 1950s Walt Disney Predictive Programming, Flat Earth, and Freemasonry. Did you see that? Yeah,
you and I watched the same stuff. That is really weird. Yeah, I absolutely watched that. And that's a cool video, because it sounded like it was narrated by Orson Welles, or that Orson Welles wannabe that works for Disney.
I think I remember seeing that as a kid.
I think I did too.
But if you think about it, anywhere from 3-year-olds to 15-year-olds can be sitting down. This is them being shown, something that they've never really no one's gonna go to a kid and go, space doesn't exist, aliens aren't real, the Earth is like, you're not gonna hear any of that. But then you sit down and watch this trusted old man, Walt Disney, introduce this show, and then this hypnotic voice in this reassuring, showing you this is the way it is. That is mind control at its finest. Yeah. And that is implanted in these, new young brains that don't have any discernment, and it becomes their core belief. Right.
I had a moment of hope, and we've got a little time left before the next break. Got like 6 minutes, but I wanted to relate this. You may or may not have seen this, but it was a little clip from Neil Tyson's Cosmos show, where he had a couple younger, girls that were astrophysicists or rocket scientist people. And they were talking about blah, 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 space this and space that. And he mentions the moon missions. And the one girl looks at her, and I used this as one of the clips, a long time ago for a Strange World intro. And she goes, yeah, that was a thing. Like that was kind of a big deal, but And he was going, what are you talking about? What, it was a thing. It was a huge deal. And she goes, yeah, but we haven't done it since. And she was kind of making the point that's like, look, 2 generations have gone since then, have gone nowhere. 2 generations of people, to the point where now there's kids that have no freaking idea about the moon. I mean, it is literally ancient history to them. And that she goes, they cut off pretty quick, but she's going, why show me it, do it again. I want to see it again. And that's true. Reinforcement really, really helps. And they never did it. They never bothered to do it. They were scared to death of getting found out, which again, I want to throw this at you because I don't know if you and I ever talked about it, was because you know full well, the Americans said they went, but then everybody else quit. Nobody else, the Russians didn't land a man on their own, China, Japan, European, nobody went except for the Americans. And I was going, geez, why wouldn't they? The space race had to end when the Americans got there, because if they didn't, you've got a continuity problem. Meaning if the Russians show up, if the Russians land on the moon and their footage their environment doesn't match yours absolutely to a T, I mean, down to the whatever ash you're using on the ground, to whatever reflection of the lights, if their lighting is wrong, it would be torn apart in 2 seconds.
Didn't that just happen with the Japanese on the moon?
Not the Japanese, but the Chinese.
The Chinese.
The Chinese. The missing thing that nobody knows about. The Chinese supposedly have had a working rover on there for 3.5 years, and yet they are not ever going to go into the Sea of Tranquility and go by the American flag, because we've already got all the images from that. And if those images
that would be trespassing.
Yeah, it would be. Well, but come on, think of what a great thing for China would be if it was real. You go there, you knock over the American flag accidentally, the news media just freaking loses it. It's like, oh, an international incident. Is China declaring a new, space race war? Whatever it is. But anyway, they can't do it. Nobody can. You can't. You have to. I will say this. They did stop when they were supposed to. Had they gone any further, had the Russians gone there, and then we turned this into, we have 4 people on the moon, we have 5, that somebody would have found out that it wouldn't have lasted as long as it did now, because then you would have had multiple angles, and you can't do it. So, what do you want to plug? Where do you want people to go?
Just research flat Earth. You can go to my, when you're trying to, most people here listening, I'm assuming already know the Earth is flat. So when you're talking to other people about it, don't try to jam information down their throat. Ask questions, pose them questions. Did you ever think about this? Don't give them a 4-hour Morgile presentation, because even though they're epic, they're not going to watch it because they don't believe it. You're not going to go watch something long. So that's what my videos are: 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes long each. And if you watch 2 or 3 of my videos, then you might watch a 30-minute video. Then you might watch an hour video, and then you're a flat earther. So you just start people off slowly. Don't get frustrated, because just remember, you were there once also.
Yep.
I banned people from social media, from my podcast, for telling me to look into flat Earth, because it was nonsense, and I wouldn't even watch a 2-minute video.
Yep.
So when somebody don't say, hey, the Earth is flat. Just say, you ever wonder how you can see a beach 100 miles away when there should be 6,000 feet of curvature?
Right.
And they'll slow down. They'll come up with something, and you just keep asking questions, because it's just like a kid. We're all kids. You can't give a kid advice unless they ask for advice.
Yep. Agreed. But exactly what I was going to say. Put the nugget in their head. Let them deal with it. You cannot force somebody, again, lead the horse to water. You cannot force somebody down this path. You've got to let them find it.
You can lead a globalist to knowledge, but you can't make them think.
There you go. It's true. I mean, and it works. I mean, look at the not to end on a weird note, but that Bill Burr thing from yesterday, the Bill Burr comedian thing. He was shredding us a couple weeks ago. And now this morning, he was treating us pretty gingerly, because I will say this: the flat Earth community, once you get into flat Earth, you're so pumped up, you're so enthusiastic that when you see attacks, you go after people. And one of the interviews I'm doing tomorrow, I think he's having me on because he got freaking wailed on by a lot of flat earthers. You know, I didn't authorize it. Nobody authorized it. It's just a natural thing. So anyway, any parting shots? Any parting words?
I'll plug my favorite video for new people. You know, if somebody says, "Hey, send me a video," I recommend a Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth 21 Questions by ODD Reality.
Nice.
But you have to look it up as A Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth 21 Questions, because it's such a good video. There are now hundreds of debunking videos that try to hijack your search. For if you search Flat Earth 21 Questions, you're going to hit a ton of nonsense debunking videos. And I don't mind, you can watch those debunking videos, but you should watch the real video first and think for yourself.
Yeah. And again, I don't condemn the people that debunk it, because everyone starts out as debunking it. So more the merrier. You guys want to try to debunk this thing? Great. Eventually, you're going to have to give up. But hey, take your shot. You're just going to expose more people, and the more subscribers, the better. I'll just keep exposing them.
Very good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it was a thrill, man.
All right. Enjoy. All right. Have a good night. Thanks.
All right. See you, man. Bye-bye.
Bye. And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
Level of cleanliness. Thank you very much for the rest of the way, Mr. Thomas Bousquet. Thank you, Mr. Lagerfeld.
Yes.
Mind control to Major Tom.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Have you ever dreamed of going up to outer space? Or maybe meeting other beings from another place? Have you ever wondered what it's like on other planets? Then you watch a science show and come to believe you understand it? You feel empowered by the knowledge and you feel enlightened, listening to Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. But then you wake up and you start to see the obvious. Life is just a lie and this whole world ain't what we thought it was. NASA's missions to the moon were never completed. They just filmed them in a room and people believe it. I used to wonder what it's like to be an astronaut. Now when I see them acting, I can't help but to laugh a lot. They give us cartoons and they claim that we live on a ball, but it's flat and it's not moving or spinning at all. Why you lying to us, man? That's something that we want to know. After that, you're gonna have to pack up all your stuff and go.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Space
History has been rewritten by winners of wars. The Jesuit order, Khazars, Freemasons, and more. They pulled the veil over our eyes, and it's time to awaken. Through organized indoctrination, our minds have been taken. It's time we take our power back and we rescue our people. The Vatican and the bankers are like Resident Evil. They may have had the greatest plan that was ever concocted, but Illuminati never thought that they'd ever be spotted. They're manufacturing reality all in our heads. They tell us if the earth is flat then we'll fall off the edge, but if it is a spinning ball we won't fall off it then. And gravity is our imaginary magic friend. Why is water always flat when unmanipulated? Why are pictures of the earth computer generated? Why you lying to us, man? That's something that we want to know. After that you're gonna have to pack up all your stuff and go.
Dear NASA, it's becoming 100% crystal clear that you and the other space programs that are in operation are connected and are deceiving the entire world. More and more people are waking up every single day, and we are now able to see right through you. But what we really want to know is, why are you lying? Sincerely, me and the great people of this earth.
Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.